I'm not trying to be an alarmist, but I want everybody to be aware that Hollywood is not having a good time. We have just seen a giant dip at the box office, and I don't think it's going to bounce back anytime soon. In fact, this week at the box office, the only thing keeping it alive was Deadpool and Wolverine and Alien Romulus. Everything else that showed up was largely ignored, and The Crow was completely embarrassed. This is going to be a problem going forward because without those $100 million a weekend performances at the theaters here domestically, Hollywood will be bleeding rather soon. Let's take a look at the story that I think is probably the most telling coming to us from Deadline. You see, Deadpool and Wolverine was pulling the feathers off of the Crow and putting Blink twice to sleep as summer winds down. And again, this is from the evening box office on the 25th. The story actually is from the 8:13 this morning, but I believe it's been updated as we are covering it. So when you're watching this fresh Monday morning, well, just be prepared. The lack of want to see fair is what's being blamed here, and I don't disagree with Anthony's perspective at all. The return to school definitely hurts the theaters, but it's a weekend. So after the first weekend, maybe a trip to the theater is warranted. I don't know. But this is the penultimate weekend of summer, and it's coming up with a $94.5 million total pull at the box office. This is dismal. It's 33% down from last weekend. And again, what is there to go see? Nothing compelling. It's the third lowest weekend of this summer after the first weekend of June, which was the post Memorial Day frame, which only had a $66.3 million incredibly terrifying weekend. And the first weekend of May was a dismal 73.9. This is headed the wrong way and far sooner than any of the theater exhibitors would prefer. This is also the weekend where you do see a cool down, usually not to this extreme, but there really wasn't much to offer. Disney still has the MCU title Deadpool and Wolverine at the very top, and it's the fourth weekend so far at number one. It fell off to 18.3 million. That's a low number, which tells you where second through fifth place are going to be, basically in the toilet. 39% fall from the previous weekend, but again, 5 weekends in, and it's doing all right. It's probably going to take the next stretch at number one over the next weekend as well. 5 straight weekends at number one. There you go. The 20th Century Studios' Alien Romulus isn't far behind in second place, and it did that with a mere 16.2 million, falling off a rough 61%, but doing far better than Covenant, which was a terrible movie. The IMAX cash in the North American market was 2.1 million, but it managed a global take of 31.2. So it's the second highest grossing horror film ever at IMAX as far as the global number is concerned. Romulus is going to surpass Prometheus over the course of this week, which is good, and become the biggest horror film ever for IMAX, which is, well, spectacular. But the two films are easily beating out this blink twice thing, which we predicted was not going to do very well in one of the 6 minute daily excursions we had last week. And at 7.3 million for an opening, not doing spectacularly well. And of course, she spent a $50 million sum on the Crow reboot, and that only earned 4.6 million. Less than 5 million at theaters, behind Blink Twice, which I knew was going to be terrible. And Sony's $5 million Kendrick Brothers film, The Forge, was 6.6 million. There's just not a lot out there to go out and see, and The Crow was never going to be something that pulled in audiences. I mean, let's just be honest with ourselves. So you had pretty decent scores for the Channing Tatum film, but nobody really was thinking this was going to perform very well. And at $20 million, well, it's going to need a lot of push for a while. The biggest question is why didn't anybody hear of that film? Well, because of lack of advertising. And I think marketing is playing a big role in the underperformance of features that maybe should have done better. And I think that the studios are banking all of the big bucks on marketing to their big films, their tent poles. maybe they need to rethink that. The Crow is gonna be the thing that most people will be disappointed about, but I'm not sure why. It's not really The Crow. It's not even a remake. It's not even a reboot. In fact, it's The Crow in name only. Nobody wanted to see it. The 30-year-old cult classic with Brandon Lee is basically the best film they could have ever possibly made ever, and even the sequel was incredibly disappointing. You can't do anything without Brandon Lee and that property, and if you do, it has to be something extraordinary, and this certainly wasn't. It's certainly going to be a massive loss for them, but nothing on the scale of Borderlands, as Anthony points out here, which is probably going to lose well more than the 20 or $30 million they're admitting to here. I think you're looking at something next to, well, catastrophic when it comes to Borderlands. But I don't think The Crow is going to make its money back. I think it's probably likely to lose $20 million. Hard to say. Nobody's going to see it. Nobody wanted it, and no, nobody's going to buy it. So this will be something that they might get some money out of if they rent it off to Netflix or whoever. It certainly isn't going to do very well over on Disney Plus or Hulu. So just figure out where it has to go from there. Audiences didn't like it at all. The cinema score was a B minus. That's always a bad sign. A B is a bad sign. Anything less than an A or A minus, I don't even consider films, worth seeing. It had a 1.5 with post track audiences, and overall, I mean, they weren't driven there for any other reason than to see it looks like Skarsgård and perhaps enjoying some air conditioning. And of course, The Crow always was going to skew close to 60% male, and it was going to break down exactly the way you expect. Latino audience is actually over-indexed once again. And look, if you're going to market to Latinos because they are showing up the theaters in droves. So if you're not doing that, if you're not making films that are appealing that way, you're just outright set to fail. The overall numbers are obviously what you're here for. So Deadpool Wolverine is still in 3,840 theaters, and it did very well this weekend for a grand total of 18.3 to again lead the weekend, which is a low number to do that. You should have a fresh film beating it out on week one. But at 577 million domestic, the film just continues to rise and probably will make another 24 to 25 million in the balance of this week. And, once again, surprise us with just how well this film performed. And again, it's all because of Ryan Reynolds. Disney had very little, if anything, to do with this. Alien Romulus, as I mentioned before, did very well. It added 30 theaters and it is in 3,915. It was able to carry off the weekend at 16.2 million, and that's enough to make any production satisfied. A small fall of 61%. That was a joke, folks. It probably will drop another 30% next weekend and make its way down to maybe being in theaters for 6 weeks before they're looking to send that out to somebody else to show. It ends with us managed to stay in third place, it appears, and it's still driving well in the United States market at 120.8 million. International numbers might save this film and create an opportunity for multiple sequels, which have apparently is on the table, despite the fact that the two stars just don't seem to like each other all that much. Blink Twice is again very disappointing at 7.3 million, and I don't think that that's going to do very well next weekend. It's going to prove that maybe Amazon made a mistake in acquiring MGM and thinking they were all of a sudden a movie studio. And The Forge, which is another Sony product, 1,818 theaters, little known property, and managed 6.6 million. What's really surprising to me is Twister's kind of hung in there in the sixth position. It's been out for 6 weeks now. It's ready to go to digital if it's not there already. And in its domestic total at 248.6 million, it may actually pay itself off. If you combine it with the global earnings and what the advertisement budget was, it might be okay. Anyway, I wanted to keep this one rather short. You can go back and look through the top 10 if you so choose. But my question is, did you go to the theater this weekend? And if you did, what did you see? Because it doesn't seem like a lot of people went, and that kept the total box office number, as I said, under 100 million, which I think is kind of tragic. If these numbers continue to slide, they're going to have problems at the end of the year, justifying the next several tent poles for the years to come. Because, well, they'll be the only things that get made because the mid-level films, which seem to be non-existent now, will be completely non-existent by the time we get there. Let me know what you saw. Let me know if you're interested, and let me know if you like the box office review videos, because otherwise I'll do something else. On that note, do double check that you're still subscribed. YouTube has been unsubscribing people, despite the fact that I recently crossed the threshold of 25K, and I'm growing a bit thanks to all of you. But I'm also watching people fall off that I know would normally be subscribed. So do double check that. Hit the thumbs up button. Do make the comments, of course. Share the stream everywhere you can. Share the videos everywhere you can. Share the channel everywhere you can. And until next time, see ya.